This is BBC World News. I'm David Eads. Our top stories. One of the world's oldest travel firms, Thomas Cook, has collapsed.
I know that this outcome will be devastating to many people and will cause a lot of anxiety, stress and disruption.
More than 600,000 customers are stranded overseas as Britain has launched its largest ever peacetime repatriation operation. Also, 21,000 jobs are on the line. As world leaders gather for a special climate summit, UN scientists warn the situation is getting worse faster. And at the annual US TV Awards, the Emmys, Game of Thrones picks up Best Drama Series with the BBC's Fleabag a surprise winner. Hello, thanks for joining us here on BBC World News. Thomas Cook, one of the world's largest and indeed oldest travel companies, has ceased trading. The final confirmation came after prolonged talks to try to save the company simply collapsed. 21,000 employees are destined to lose their jobs. In total, around 600,000 people are stranded, and that includes 150,000 British holidaymakers. The UK government has launched what is the largest ever peacetime repatriation to bring them home. Simon Jones has this.
Grounded, the UK's oldest holiday firm has collapsed after 178 years. A day of frantic negotiations to try to secure its future failed. At 2 o'clock this morning, the end was declared by the Civil Aviation Authority. It has already begun flying a fleet of chartered planes around the world to bring holidaymakers home.
This is a huge operation. It's the largest peacetime repatriation, 150,000 people. That's the size of a town such as sort of Oxford or Huddersfield. We have at least over 40 planes. They will be running flights over the next 2 weeks. We expect to run around about 1,000 flights.
Holidaymakers like these people who arrived in Mallorca yesterday are being told they will be flown home as close as possible to their booked return date, but there may be some problems and delays. Travel experts believe up to 1 million more people who had bookings in the coming months will have lost their holidays, though they will get refunds, but that may take a long time. Up until the early hours of this morning, the Thomas Cook website was still offering what it called fantastic deals, urging people to book now. But take a look at the website now, and it comes up with this message saying the business has ceased trading and everything is cancelled. In the end, the firm simply ran out of cash. Uncertainty over Brexit, last year's heatwave in Europe, and political unrest in popular destinations are all being blamed. More than 20,000 Thomas Cook employees, including 9,000 based in the UK, are set to lose their jobs. The government is asking the Insolvency Service to fast-track an investigation into what went wrong. Simon Jones, BBC News.
It's a pretty miserable picture, isn't it? Peter Fankhauser is the chief executive of Thomas Cook. He made a statement about the collapse of the company he's been leading and trying to save.
This is a statement I hoped I would never have to make. Following a decision by the board late last night, the UK government's official receiver was appointed in the early hours of this morning, the 23rd of September, to take control of Thomas Cook. Despite huge efforts over a number of months and further intense negotiations in recent days, we have not been able to secure a deal to save our business. I know that this outcome will be devastating to many people and will cause a lot of anxiety, stress and disruption. First, I want to apologize to my 21,000 colleagues who I know will be heartbroken. You all fought so hard to make Thomas Cook a success. Secondly, I would like to say sorry to all our customers, those who are on holiday with us now and those who have booked with us in the coming months. My colleagues will be working with the CAA to help with the repatriation. Finally, I would like to apologize to the many thousands of hoteliers and suppliers who have stuck by our business in good times and in bad, and who now face difficult financial choices of their own. It has been my privilege to lead Thomas Cook. It is deeply distressing to me that it has not been possible to save one of the most loved brands in travel. Thank you.
Well, that's Peter Fankhauser. They're just running through the very bad news, obviously, for employees as much as for holidaymakers. We spoke to the chairperson of the UK's Civil Aviation Authority, Dame Deirdre Hutton, who said that she could guarantee that those 150,000 British travellers would get back, and at a similar time that they were scheduled to originally return with Thomas Cook.
We recognise that it's a really sad day. Thomas Cook is the world's oldest travel agency, and it's just very sad to see it go. And for those 9,000 UK people who are going to lose their jobs, this is a horrible day for them, and they are in our thoughts. But the government has asked us to repatriate the 150,000 people, and we will do that, and every single person will be brought home. They should go to the website, Thomas Cook, that's one word, thomascook.caa.co.uk, and they'll find details of their new flights on that. And the idea is that everybody just has their holiday. You don't have to come back early. Your new flight will be probably on the same day that you were going to come back anyway, and the details of that flight will be up on the website about 72 hours before you're due to fly.
Right, where are you getting...
The other thing I should say...
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, could I just say one more thing? Anybody who was due to fly out today or in subsequent days on a Thomas Cook holiday, I'm afraid that's not going to happen, so please do not go to the airport. There will be no more Thomas Cook flights.
Right, I was just going to ask you about where you're commandeering all the aircraft from, but of course Thomas Cook leased a lot of aircraft. Is it simply they may even be on the same plane?
No, the Thomas Cook planes are leased, so they will have been taken back by the lessors. So we've had to acquire about 40 aircraft from around the world. So no, we can't use Thomas Cook planes.
Right. This whole operation,
big operation. This is 18 countries and 55 airports, and we will be running about 1,000 flights over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, we've picked up this idea of it's the biggest peacetime repatriation operation. I mean, it's clearly huge. It's going to cost a lot of money as well. I know that the Civil Aviation Authority is responsible for or works on issues of protecting holidaymakers, fair treatment for holidaymakers. So they're not going to pay any more, presumably. Who is going to pick up the tab?
Well, as I say, government have asked us to repatriate everybody, so the financing of this will be sorted out later. When we had to do this 2 years ago for Monarch, that cost about 50 million, and this operation is about double the size. But all those figures will be sorted out afterwards, and it'll be in the public domain.
Yeah, what does that mean, Deirdre? Sorted out afterwards, picked up later? I mean, one wonders, who's going to pay for this? Is it a taxpayer's expense?
Well, it's complicated because some of those passengers will be covered by ATOL, and that will come out of the fund that we run, the Air Travel Fund. Some of that will be paid for by us, some of that will be paid for by government.
Deirdre Hutton of the Civil Aviation Authority there. Now, global temperatures, they're up. Sea levels, they are also up, and they're both rising at an accelerating pace. That's the stark warning coming from the UN's Meteorological Agency as world leaders gather in New York for a special summit on climate change. Well, China is one country facing pressure to bring down its carbon emissions. It may be experiencing a boom in renewable energy, but it still uses more coal than anything else for its power stations. Here's our correspondent John Sudworth.
On average, China has built a solar farm as big as this one every day for the past 3 years. A rush to renewables personified by Cao Xiaohu. He used to work in a coal mine.
Our solar plant can save 50 or 60,000 tons of coal each year. I'm proud doing this job and working in this industry.
But there's a long way to go, with its massive coal reserves still used for 60% of its energy. China produces more than a quarter of the world's carbon emissions. And it may bear more than its fair share of the consequences too. Asia's high mountain glaciers, a vital source of water for millions, are under serious threat.
The retreating is very fast. It's about 1 meter per year by thickness, as large as 50 meters per year by length.
50 meters a year. These glaciers are retreating.
Retreating, the largest. So that's why some glaciers in the southeastern Tibetan Plateau will be disappeared very soon.
The country's communist rulers do have what might be called an authoritarian advantage, huge powers to support and promote new technologies.
China is now producing and installing these panels in such volume that the economies of scale mean something extraordinary and very important is happening. The industry is reaching what it calls grid parity, the point at which getting electricity from these things is now cheaper per unit than generating it from coal.
But China's authoritarian system also protects vested interests. There are troubling signs that it's recently resumed building work on new coal power stations.
To tell whether China is a real climate leader or not, this is really the moment. China, on one hand, is indeed now the largest investor of some of the most advanced renewable energy technologies in the world. But on the other hand, China also has its darker side.
China's stance at the New York conference will be watched closely. Despite big positive steps, its coal habit will be a hard one to break. John Sudworth, BBC News, Beijing.
OK, let's get some of the day's other news for you from around the world now. Israel's president has called on the two main rivals in last week's election to come together to form what he called a stable coalition. President Rivlin held talks on Sunday with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party and Benny Gantz's Blue and White. The Arab list, meanwhile, which came third, has thrown its support behind Blue and White. The chairman of the US House Intelligence Committee says that the contents of a telephone conversation between Donald Trump and his Ukrainian counterpart could be grounds for the president's impeachment. Adam Schiff said that if it was proven that Mr. Trump pressured Volodymyr Zelensky to investigate the Democratic presidential frontrunner Joe Biden, then impeachment would be the only option. You are watching BBC World News. Do stay with us. Coming up in just a moment, the royal couple, Harry and Meghan, along with their 4-month-old son, Archie, visit South Africa. It's their first official tour as a family. We'll have details.
Amazon's got everything you need, and free shipping for all. Welcome, everyone.
Attention, please. It's time to put away your computers.
You're watching BBC World News. I'm David Eads. Our main story this hour, Thomas Cook, one of the world's oldest travel firms, has collapsed, stranding hundreds of thousands of tourists around the world. So what does that mean for those holidaymakers and travellers? Well, let's find out, because Gavin Lee is at Palma Airport in Mallorca. Gavin, interesting, of course, anyone who's trying to get on a Thomas Cook holiday in British airports, they're all empty because they can't go anywhere. A lot of people desperate, I guess, to know how they're going to get home again.
Yeah, bear in mind, Palma Airport and Antalya in Turkey, the two busiest destinations for Thomas Cook. So those 500,000 passengers all around the world that are working out how on earth they get back, not just today, but over the next couple of weeks. And what I'm seeing here in the departures lounge at Palma Airport is Operation Matterhorn in action. This is basically the lounge for all Thomas Cook passengers as they're waiting now. It's starting to build. And there are 5 flights today, meant to be going back to Glasgow, to Birmingham, to Manchester, to Bristol, to the East Midlands as well, about 1,500 people, and this has become something of a waiting area. What the yellow-vested workers of the Civil Aviation Authority who've come out especially this morning are saying is they will get back today. They're reassuring people to say the only thing is it won't necessarily be the same airport that you flew out from, and we might be able to walk around and speak to a couple of people here. Just a quick word with you. I'm Gavin from the BBC. Where are you trying to fly back to today?
East Midlands.
And what's your name?
Mrs. Barnett.
What's your first name, Mrs. Barnett?
Christine.
Christine, where are you trying to fly back to today? East Midlands. What are you being told?
That our flight's now at 3:20, and they've gone off to get assistance for us. So we're just sitting here waiting.
So how are you feeling about today, given that you've just finished your holiday?
Yeah, it's a great shame. Had a nice holiday though.
I think it's pretty well organised.
Yes,
I think it's pretty well organised, quite frankly, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
You both are talking to us, and good luck with your flight. I mean, that's the pragmatism for you. The operation for East Midlands actually seems to be the smoothest one. If people are going back to Glasgow today, they're being told that they will fly to Birmingham, and we spoke to one family who said they're going to have to drive maybe 6-7 hours. Spoke to another family who said they're going back to Newcastle, but that won't be returning either. That's going back to Manchester as well. But spirit of thought as well, as we walk this way, for the Thomas Cook workers as well, who have come in today. They're not being paid, and they said they do want to help people, even though they were also deeply upset by what's going on today. So, as I say, fairly calm on the ground at the moment here at Palma Airport. Just one of many around the world where people are trying to work out what happens next. You know, frustration kicking in a little bit here with some people. Others, as we just heard, relatively pragmatic, hoping for the best.
OK, Gavin, thanks very much indeed. Yeah, a little bit of a mixed picture there, and there are another 450,000 non-British travellers who also need to work out how they are going to get home. Now, there are something like 4 million people of Indian origin living in the United States. India's Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, has just been given one of the largest ever receptions for a foreign leader there. The Howdy Modi rally took place in Houston with President Trump and Mr. Modi singing one another's praises. The BBC's Brajesh Upadhyaya reports from Houston.
Boisterous, fired up and huge. This was exactly the kind of energy and crowd size President Trump loves at his rallies. Only here, the chants were for Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and Mr. Trump was the superstar invited to the party. But he wasn't disappointed either.
My friend, a friend of India, a great American president, Mr. Donald Trump.
Indian tricolour fused with stars and stripes, and a bipartisan delegation of members of Congress at the stage presented the perfect setting for this eye-popping political spectacle. The personal touch diplomacy with Mr. Modi's trademark bear hug was played to perfection. For all the love between the two leaders, the two countries have engaged in some acrimonious tit-for-tat battle over trade and tariffs. But in Houston, it was all about the positives.
We are committed to ensuring the Indian people have access to the finest goods in the world, products stamped with the beautiful phrase, "Made in the USA."
This rally has been called a win-win for both the leaders. For President Trump, a chance to quote the Indian-American vote for the 2020 race, where Texas could emerge as a battleground state. For Mr. Modi, a PR triumph and a picture with the United States President that many believe could help him shrug off some of the criticism about his strong-armed policies at home. A few hundred protesters had gathered not far from the arena to voice their anger against Mr. Modi's heavy-handed approach in the disputed territory of Kashmir. Modi's adoring supporters endorse his actions and believe he can do no wrong.
USA President Trump and our Modi ji, it's thumbs up. And it's a great moment for both India as well as US.
I think it's a great opportunity for us as well to be in the same presence as Modi and President Trump.
While this joint rally testifies to the growing importance of US-India relations, there are many who believe the Modi-Trump equation may still struggle with the competing narratives of India first and America first in the coming days. Rajesh Upadhyay, BBC News, Houston, Texas.
The Duke and Duchess of Sussex, along with their 4-month-old son Archie, are to arrive in South Africa shortly for their first official tour as a family. And during this trip, it's going to last 10 days. In fact, Prince Harry will also visit Malawi, Botswana and Angola to highlight the work of his late mother, Princess Diana, in tackling the menace of landmines. Well, our correspondent Pumza Falani is in Cape Town. She said the royal couple are certainly due for a warm welcome when they get there.
The organisers of the trip have told us that they want the Duke and Duchess to experience South Africa in its authenticity, so we are expecting much fanfare, especially at the venues that they will be attending. They kickstart their tour here in Cape Town at a local NGO that does work with teaching women self-defence classes. It is one of the most dangerous townships in South Africa, so they want to see what sort of work the women are doing there, but they're also very interested in looking at specific projects around women empowerment.
Right, I mean, Prince Harry is going to go further afield, I suspect possibly leaving his family behind for certain parts of that journey. And that legacy is very apparent, isn't it, linking back to Diana, to his mother?
That's right, and part of what they want to do on this visit is to reaffirm those ties. The UK and South Africa have a long-standing relationship that is mostly based on trade, but what they want to do and what they want to get out of this experience, and are hoping South Africans that they get to interact with, get a person-to-person contact with them. There will be sessions where they will be interacting directly with people, trying to get a sense of things that South Africans are passionate about, but also projects that they can try and garner more support for, much in line with what Princess Diana was about. Prince Harry travels on day 3 further onto the region, and the last of his tour will be in Angola, where his mother also did work there around the discovery of landmines.
Pumza Falani there. Now, it's been a very good night for British stars at the US TV Awards, the Emmys. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who's the writer and creator of the comedy series Fleabag, and Jodie Comer, who starred in the series Killing Eve, won 2 of the night's big prizes. Game of Thrones, perhaps predictably, took Best Drama. Here's our North America correspondent, Peter Bowes.
Jodie on the right here. Posing for the camera and parading the purple carpet. Hollywood royalty, along with the kings and queens of Game of Thrones, the fantasy drama that's dominated the small screen for much of the past decade.
Game of Thrones.
It was the year's most nominated show and won the night's top award for Best Drama. But it was Fleabag that stole the show. The dark comedy that started as a one-woman play at the Edinburgh Festival is now the toast of Hollywood.
The reason that I do it is this.
Best Comedy, Director, Writing and Best Actress for Phoebe Waller-Bridge, the show's creator and star.
It's just really wonderful that to know and reassuring that a dirty, pervy, angry, messed up woman can make it to the Emmys. So thank you so much.
Jodie Comer, who plays a psychopathic assassin in Killing Eve, took the award for Best Actress in a Drama, beating her co-star Sandra Oh.
My mum and dad were in Liverpool, who I didn't invite because I didn't think this was going to be my time.
Billy Porter made history, the first openly gay man to win for Best Actor in a Drama for his performance in Pose. Ben Wishaw's portrayal of Norman Scott in A Very English Scandal won him the award for Best Supporting Actor. He'd already been celebrating.
I'm hungover.
Michelle Williams Fossey Verdon.
The ceremony was mostly free of political statements, although Michelle Williams chose her moment to make a point about equality.
And so the next time a woman, and especially a woman of color, because she stands to make 52 cents on the dollar compared to her white male counterpart, tells you what she needs in order to do her job, listen to her.
There were also awards for Chernobyl, the docudrama about the 1986 nuclear disaster, and Netflix's Black Mirror, Bandersnatch, the interactive film in which viewers have a say in the storyline.
Thank you very much. I was quite unprepared.
Television is enjoying a golden age. Peter Bowes, BBC News, Los Angeles.
Just to remind you, it's the collapse of Thomas Cook which is taking most of the headlines at the moment. Business Live coming up in just a moment. Sally and Alice will be bringing in the ramifications of the collapse of Thomas Cook. 21,000 jobs, among many other things, gone. That's Business Live in just a moment. Stay with us.
Are your voices in the sewer? You know, from the drain.
What kind of voices?
It's like a
clown.
September 6th.
You haven't changed anything yet. You haven't changed the futures.
You lied and I died! You lied and I died!
Gates, Chapter 2, rated R.
As you know, I'm one of the producers on your film Good Boys, and I'm here to tell you that you can't see the movie.